Sometimes life doesn't bring you to the arena so you can win. It brings you there so you can show the world what true strength looks like. This is the story of Amelia Brooks, a woman who walked into a dojo to clean floors, but walked out teaching everyone what dignity really means. The sound of a wooden sword hits the floor. Slow motion breath. Amelia Brooks had never been the kind of woman people noticed. She was quiet, humble, and always worked hard, mopping floors, cleaning mirrors, and keeping things tidy at a local dojo called White Dragon Dojo. But deep down, behind her calm eyes, there was a fire that had been burning since she was a little girl. When other kids were playing with dolls, Amelia watched martial arts tournaments on TV. She dreamed of wearing a black belt one day, not for fame, not for power, but for respect. Still, life wasn't kind to her. Every time she tried to join a training center, she was met with the same words. "Sorry, we're not taking new students right now." But she always knew the real reason: her skin color, her background, her accent. One rainy evening, Amelia stood outside the White Dragon Dojo. Inside, young fighters trained fiercely, the sound of punches and yells echoing through the glass doors. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. Everyone stopped for a second, eyes turning toward her. Behind the front desk stood Kyle, tall, athletic, confident, and a bit too proud of himself. He smirked and said, "Cleaning's at the back, miss." "We're in the middle of a real class here." Amelia hesitated. "I'm not here to clean today," she said softly. "I want to train." Kyle chuckled, shaking his head. "You train? This isn't Zumba, you'll hurt yourself." A deep voice interrupted. It was Master Lewis, the dojo's head instructor, an older man with calm eyes. "Kyle," he said, "everyone starts somewhere. If she's serious, let her prove it." The room fell silent. Kyle rolled his eyes. "Fine, but don't say I didn't warn her." From that day, Amelia came every evening after work. She trained silently, punching, kicking, sweating, long after everyone else had gone home. When the dojo closed, she stayed to clean, and secretly practiced the moves she saw others perform. But the whispers never stopped. "She doesn't belong here. She's just the cleaning lady. Why is she even trying?" Each comment cut deep, but Amelia said nothing. She had learned long ago, words can't break you unless you let them. Every night she returned home with bruised hands and tired legs. But she would whisper to herself in the mirror, "One day, they'll see me." 6 months later, Master Lewis made an announcement. "Next week we'll hold an internal tournament. The winner will represent White Dragon Dojo in the city championship." The room filled with excitement. Kyle's friends clapped him on the back, already sure he'd win. But when Master Lewis asked, "Who else wants to compete?" a soft but steady voice said, "I do." Everyone turned. Amelia stood there, hands trembling slightly but eyes firm. Kyle burst into laughter. "Are you serious? You think you can fight me?" Amelia nodded once. "Yes." "Oh, this I've got to see," someone whispered. Even Master Lewis hesitated, but there was something in Amelia's eyes, something unshakable. He finally said, "Very well. You'll fight tomorrow." The air turned heavy. Whispers spread like wildfire. That night, Amelia sat alone in her small apartment. Her hands trembled as she wrapped her training tape. On the wall was a faded photo of her late father, a man who had once told her, "Strength isn't about how hard you hit. It's about how long you can stand when life keeps hitting you." She closed her eyes and whispered, "I'll make you proud, Dad." Outside, rain poured down. Inside, her determination grew stronger than ever. The next day, the dojo was packed. Everyone came to see the cleaning ladies fight. Some were curious, some were waiting to laugh. Kyle walked into the ring with a confident grin. He looked at Amelia and said mockingly, "Try not to cry when I knock you down, okay?" Amelia didn't reply. She bowed respectfully, her eyes calm, her heart steady. Master Lewis raised his hand. "Begin!" Kyle rushed forward, his movements sharp and fast. Amelia dodged, barely keeping up. Each hit that didn't land made Kyle angrier.
"Come on, fight me for real,"
he shouted. The audience laughed. But Amelia was watching, studying him, breathing slowly. Her father's words echoed in her mind. "Patience. Wait for your moment." Minutes passed. Kyle grew impatient. He launched a high kick, too fast, too reckless. Amelia saw it, her eyes widened, and in one smooth motion, she caught his leg and twisted. Kyle stumbled backward, almost falling. The room gasped. For the first time, she had touched him, and it changed everything. Master Lewis smiled quietly. Kyle's pride was wounded. He growled, "Lucky move. Let's see if you can do it again." But Amelia was calm now. She wasn't afraid anymore. Kyle attacked again, furious, faster than before. Amelia dodged once, twice, then spun gracefully and landed a strike to his chest. He stepped back, shocked, eyes wide. The crowd fell silent. You could hear nothing but heavy breathing. Amelia stood tall, her fists steady, her gaze unwavering. She whispered softly, "I'm not here to prove I'm better than you. I'm here to prove I belong." Kyle didn't respond. His smirk was gone, and at that moment the laughter stopped. The whispers vanished. For the first time they saw her, not as a cleaner, not as a woman, not as a color, but as a warrior. The rain had stopped by the time the next morning arrived. Sunlight streamed through the small cracks in the curtains, painting lines of gold across the floor. Amara opened her eyes to the sound of soft footsteps. Her father, Elijah, packing his worn leather briefcase. His face looked tired but peaceful. He turned to her, smiled, and said softly, "Morning, sweetheart. We've got a big day ahead." That big day wasn't just any day, it was the day. Amara would finally return to her school after what happened at the airport. The story of that incident had spread, first among friends, then across social media. But the world had moved on quickly, as it often does. People had shared their outrage, posted hashtags, and then forgotten. For Amara and her father, though, it wasn't just a trending topic. It was a scar they still carried. As Elijah drove her to school, the city looked different, brighter maybe, or maybe she was just trying to see it that way. But as they pulled up to the gates, the weight returned. Whispers, stares, silence that screamed louder than words. Her teacher, Mrs. Carter, greeted her at the door. A polite smile, a gentle pat on the shoulder. But Amara could feel the distance in her touch. Kids turned around to look at her. Some smiled awkwardly. Others looked away. She took her seat near the window, the same seat she had before. And then she noticed something written faintly on the corner of her desk. A word, ugly, cruel, etched deep into the wood. She stared at it for a long moment, her heart sinking. But before she could even react, a boy from the back, Daniel, got up quietly. He walked over, took a marker, and drew a big, bold line through the word. Then he wrote another one above it. Strong. The class went silent. Mrs. Carter froze for a second, and for the first time that day, Amara smiled. Later that week, her father received an unexpected call. It was from the airline. After months of silence and ongoing investigations, they were finally ready to make a statement. A public apology. Elijah agreed to meet them, but only on one condition, that Amara would be there too. He wanted the world to hear her voice. The press room was bright, filled with flashing cameras and microphones. The airline's representatives stood stiffly, reading from their prepared notes. They said all the right words. Regret. Unfortunate misunderstanding. Policy review. But their eyes said something else. They just wanted it to be over. Then Elijah stepped forward. His voice was calm, but each word cut through the silence like a blade. "My daughter," he said, "was treated less than human because of the color of her skin. You cannot erase that with a statement. You cannot undo it with a headline, but you can make sure it never happens again." He placed his hand on Amara's shoulder. "She deserves to grow up in a world where no one tells her she doesn't belong, where no one has to prove their worth because of the shade of their skin." There was no applause, no cheers, just silence. Real heavy silence. And in that silence, something shifted. One of the reporters, a young woman, lowered her camera and whispered, "She's so brave." That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She sat by her window, looking at the moonlight spilling across the street. She thought about all that had happened, the fear, the shame, the strength it took just to keep standing. And she realized something. The world might not change overnight, but she could still be the change. The next morning, she wrote a letter, not to the airline, not to the news, but to herself. It said, "Dear Amara, you are more than what they see. You are kindness. You are courage. You are light in a world that sometimes forgets how to shine. Never stop believing that your voice matters." She folded the paper and tucked it inside her notebook, a promise to herself. Years later, that same notebook would sit on a desk in a bright university office. The name on the door would read, Dr. Amara Johnson, human rights researcher. Her smile in the picture frame on that desk was older, wiser. And beside it, a small photograph, her and her father, standing in front of that same airport, the place where it all began. The caption beneath it read simply, "We forgave, but we never forgot. This concludes the full story. It ends not in revenge, but in redemption. A young girl's pain turned into purpose, and her father's strength became her legacy.